Okay, so today we are finding slope from a table. And so today you will need your slope notes from your binder. I hope you have those still because you'll need that. We will be filling those out. And we are on the last section, slope and y-intercept from a table. You will also need your mathematics chart, which is your purple chart. We will be looking at that for a moment, and I will need you to write down a formula on your slope chart, okay? So I'm going to start with a clean copy because I had done some marking on here, so it has some marks that are showing through, so I'm going to start with a clean copy today, okay? So what we are doing is we need to, obviously, we're doing slope and y-intercept from a table. Here we go. Box the 2 points in the table. So, in the middle of the table. All right, here's your steps. Find the constant rate of change, which is your slope, of the x and y values, and write the change as the change in y over the change in x, and this little form is going to mean change, okay? So that is to find the slope. To find the y-intercept, you see if there is a 0 in the column. If not, use the pattern to work backwards to find what 0 would be. We will show you that in just a moment. Let's concentrate on slope, okay? Now, there are a couple ways to do this. Let's do this. The change in y over the change in x. We just did this when we were finding slope from 2 points, okay? And there is a formula that does this, and I'm going to go ahead and write m equals. And some of you are going to remember that formula, and some of you are not. So if you don't remember the formula for the slope of a line, you go to your mathematics chart and it says slope of a line, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways you can do this, and then we will go from there. So here, m is the change in y over the change of x, so y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to look at table A. And if you notice, your table is going across. And the thing is that most of the time, the tables go up and down. And X is always on the left and Y is on the right, unless they indicate something differently, which is rare, okay? I've maybe seen it once. The other way a table can be written is so that it's a cross. And you have to remember, they don't always identify it as X and Y. They may identify it as shoes and shoelaces. So you need to just know X on this kind of a table is always on the left, and on this kind of a table, X is on the top, okay? So if we do it, the change in Y over the change in X, and if we use our formula, then I'm just going to simply put out my line here, and I'm going to put my 2 subtract signs. I'm going to box the middle numbers, and you can use any of them, but the reason we say box the middle is we want you to get ready for that because we have a trick that comes up in proportions, okay? So remember, you're using X, these are XY values, okay? So we've got x1, x2, we have y1 and y2, okay? So I'm just identifying them. I need y2, so that's 4, subtract y1, which is 2, and then I have x2, I'm referring to my formula, which is 1, subtract x1, which is 0. So, real simple, okay? If you identify them, you will not have any problems, okay? Take in your calculator. Remember, you can't put this all in as one step. It will not work that way. So I need to take 4, subtract 2, and hit enter. And I'm sorry you could barely see that. I will move this over. So 4 subtract 2, and I get positive 2. And then I'm going to do 1 subtract 0, which is going to give me 1. And if I do 2 divided by 1, math, enter, enter, it is 2. Remember, you want to leave it as a simplified fraction or a whole number. So my m, or my slope, is 2. Now, the y-intercept, which is your b, is real easy in tables as long as there is a 0 in your x column. Okay? So all I have to do for a table is look here, and I'm going to look at my x's, and when I see x is 0, my y-intercept is 2. So I'm going to go and put 2 here. And the reason it works like that, and I know that sometimes if I explain it, then it makes sense to you. Okay? So I'm going to take a piece of paper and I'm just going to show you visually why that works. This is your y-axis. This is your x-axis. Okay? When we're talking about the y-intercept, we're talking about the line that you have crossing the y-intercept axis. Okay? Well, anywhere you cross the y-axis, I don't care where it is, what is the value of x? Yes, x is equal to 0. So if I cross the y-axis up here, x is still 0. If I cross the y-axis down here, x is still 0. So that's why in a table, we can just look for where x is equal to 0, and we have our y-intercept. Okay, so remember, b is your y-intercept. Okay, so there's my slope and my y-intercept. Pretty simple, correct? Okay, there's another way you can do this, but for now, we're just going to do it this way. So we are going to box the middle. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to put my subtract sign, and I'm going to identify them. This is x1, x2, y1, y2. Now, a lot of you are going to want to skip identifying. You're going to get them turned around. Please don't do that. So y2 is 12. Take away y1 is 16. I would always write my formula down because you're going to want it on the paper where you're working, okay? And also if you're working a problem. x2 is 9. Take away x1, which is 6. Okay? And then I'm going to simplify this. And here we go. 12 subtract 16, and I get -2. And here I get 9, take away 6, and I get 3. Okay? And so I'm going to check it. -2. And I'm going to do divided by, I hit plus. -2 divided by 3. I'm going to hit math. I'm going to hit enter, enter, and it tells me that it stays the same, so my slope is -2 over 3. Now remember, I said the y-intercept is where x crosses, or where your line crosses the y-axis. And in a table, generally, most of the time, you'll have the y-intercept available to you because you'll just go to the table and say, okay, x is 0, so y is 2. So my y-intercept is 2. If you notice, this table doesn't have an x is equal to 0. So we're going to have to back out to get to where x is 0. So let's see. If I go from 12 to 9, what am I doing? I'm subtracting 3. If I go from 9 to 6, this is nice because they're going by the same value. I'm subtracting 3. And I could know that by just doing, let's see, I know that the difference between 6 and 9. 6 plus 9, or I could do 9 take away 6, and I would know it's 3. But I know I'm subtracting because I'm going down. So 6 and 3, the difference is -3. So let's see what happens when I do I do 3, subtract 3, what do I get? 0. So the next step down would be 0. So if I subtracted 3 one more time, I would be at 0. So from here to here was one difference, okay? When I went from 8 to 12, what happened here? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I added 4. 12 to 16, I added 4. 16 to 20, I added 4. So 1 time would be 20 plus 4, which is going to give me, and if I didn't know, I could do 20 plus 4 in my calculator, and I would have 24. So when x is 0, y is going to be 24, and that is my y-intercept. The only other thing I want to mention is this. Sometimes when you do the subtraction over here for slope, you end up with a negative sign on here, and you end up with a negative sign down here. If that had happened, remember, when you are simplifying, negative 2 divided by negative 3, math, enter, enter, would have given me positive. So make sure you're putting your signs in correctly when you are doing your check to see if it needs to be simplified or not. Because a negative divided by a negative will give you a positive. And if that had been the case here, and you gave me a negative 2 over 3, it would be an incorrect answer. It has to be positive 2 over 3. So today your work is finding slope and y-intercept from tables practice. If you want to go get it, pause me, and I'm just going to do maybe one of these with you. And I want then on the back, oh, be careful of the intervals, okay? You are going to have what is slope and linear function on the graph. What is the slope of the linear function? So here they're looking for slope. So you're going to have to do rise over run, and you're going to have to pick your own points. So you're going to have to find a point where it crosses. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit if I can make this work. My problem is it doesn't like to zoom real easily. So let's see if I can get it to zoom. It looks like it zoomed a little bit. So I am going to look here, and what we're looking for is where this line, you see how you have like cross points right here, okay? The line has to cross at cross points. So if I go to here, it's crossing. Looks like it's crossing here. The closer you can get to your original point, the less simplification you would have to do. So remember, on a graph, first thing, is it negative or positive? Next thing, what are the intervals? Make sure you're writing them down. Then pick your 2 points, do rise over run. I would be careful down here. It's underlined, but most students just ignore. They don't read. What is the y-intercept of the linear function? They're not asking for slope on that question. Okay? Oh, I told you I would go over one of these. I would make sure, I'm not going to. I would make sure you write your formula up here, and that you show your work here. You know what to do. Follow your notes, and if you have any questions, your teacher will be more than happy to help you. Make sure you turn in your work today for a grade.